What numbers to the combination for the vault of success have we found that our competitors have not found? What is the basic foundational principle of all of our programs? What is our magic recipe for success? What is our secret ingredient? Whether it's going back to the 1960s, the 1970s, 80s, the principles in our programs are infallible, timeless, and proven to work in the past, now, and in the future. Our programs are designed to empower people to take charge of their own lives and to change their own futures. My hope and prayer when I started these companies was that these programs that I wrote would take people out of their rut and their life of mediocrity, and some way, somehow, awaken the sleeping giant within them. Some way, somehow, to find that God-given potential that's inside of every one of us that wants to come out. That's what my life's about, and that's what your life's about if you're associated with this company. Mediocrity is flying low to the ground like a sparrow when you could soar like an eagle. Mediocrity is being a teaspoon when you were born to be a steam shovel. Mediocrity is playing on a harp that has only one string when our Creator gave us 1,000 strings to play. I hate mediocrity, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. For some reason, in our present culture, we have been taught that you should read more and more books. And boy, this kind of indicts me, because I know a lot of people here read a lot of books. But let me say something about that that's incriminating to those of us that read a lot of books. If we read more and more books and attend more and more seminars, I have this question. If that really worked in and of by itself, why is there so little change in people's lives that do that? When you listen, you actually hear 100% of what comes into your ears. But by the time it goes through your mental funnel of your subconscious mind, where you can accept it and believe it, understand it, and use it, it has been reduced to only about 10% of what came in your ears, or of what you actually heard. So the question I think any of us would ask, is there a better method than this method? I say yes, if you would listen with an open mind, withholding all prejudice and preconceived ideas, with a learning attitude that is excited about gaining new information, with positive expectancy, with a keen ear, and listen closely, with a keen ear of not only what's being said, but what it can trigger in your imagination and creativity that can spark you to have that aha experience. And what is an aha experience? Well, that can explode potentials and possibilities you never dreamed or thought of before. Now turn the mental intake funnel upside down. Then instead of getting only 100% of what you are hearing or reading, by the time it goes through your listening filter system and into your subconscious, it will ignite and explode your creativity, your imagination, your ingenuity, your inventiveness, your resourcefulness. And then what's the result? It comes out not only 100%, but 10 times that amount in new creative, inventive thought. This will cause permanent change of attitude, behavior, and result. Now, what are we talking about here? We're talking about attitude, aren't we? That's exactly what it's all about. According to the National Training Laboratory in Bethel, Maine, what we actually retained from reading books and attending seminars, really, well, it shocked me. Listening to a lecture, you're listening to me right now, you're only going to be able to retain 5% of it unless you get a copy of the video or get it on a CD or get it on a cassette tape and listen to it many, many times. Reading a book, only 10% retention unless you underline it again and again. Take notes beside. Let it turn on that aha experience in you. So I have to say, what practical good is it to read one book after another, attend one seminar after another? Very little. It helps your mind become brain cluttered. We simply cannot afford to overload our circuits or clutter our minds. When people immerse themselves, listen closely, when they immerse themselves into one of our major programs, it will change their life forever. I did say immerse, and if you're taking notes, put down the word immerse, because that's what it's talking about. When we immerse ourselves, it will help us be more productive, help us live more positive lives, become a total person, live a balanced life. To totally master our courses and programs, it's imperative that we bathe in them, immerse and bathe in them until they saturate our very being. It's imperative that we masticate them, chew them slowly, and digest them until they permeate our very being. It has been said that your mental constitution is more affected by a small amount of material thoroughly mastered than 20 books that you read only one time. We should adopt this motto for our company: much, not many. Our programs are designed to empower people to take charge of their own learning. Our programs are designed so that people will interact, get involved with the goal-setting process, and then apply what they learned at home and on the job. Our programs never have been, it was not my intent at the get-go, and it's not now, to be entertainment or fluff or mental cotton candy. They are designed for lasting change or permanent change. We are only stretched mentally when we cogitate, ponder, think, imagine, visualize, and repeat the process of a given thought or idea over and over and over and over and over and over. I hosted a seminar with Ken Blanchard, author of some 20-plus leadership books. I think all of you know him as the author of The 1 Minute Manager. We had a group of 60 chief executive officers in Central Texas, and during his session he made this comment: we don't need any more information. We just need to learn how to apply what we already know and what we've already read. Let me tell you where I think the embryo is, because people ask me, can you go back? I did this in a radio interview the other day. They said, can you go back and tell exactly where you got the aha idea for this business? Well, I was conducting training meetings with a group of salespeople in my insurance agency back in 1949 and 1950, and I would give them all out books. I spent a lot of money giving books, just like now I give away $50,000, $100,000 worth of books and material. So, well, then the next week I'd say, what'd you think of that book? And the first one I gave out was The Power of Positive Thinking. And then one of them was by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I said, what'd you think of the book? Well, this is what they said. I think it's a great book. One of the best books I ever read. Well, give me an outline of the book. You just heard 7 Secrets of Closing Sales by Charles Roth. What were the 7 secrets? No one could tell me any of them. And I didn't know like that from that laboratory we read about the 5% and 10%. I didn't know about that. So I'm confused. And it kind of made me angry, to tell you the truth, because I'm wasting my money and giving them the books. So I started condensing the books, and I got a stool and sat in front of them, and I read my condensed version of the book. And then I did it again. I started having a training meeting instead of once a week. I had our training meeting once a day. Everybody had to be there every day before they went out to sell. I didn't care what part of South Florida they lived in. Then I would read it again the next day. I read it again the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, until finally I saw out in the audience, I saw some lights turn on. And then I took those people to lunch and said, what do you want to do with your life? And then what are you dreaming about? What did the book tell you? And then they would start telling me. I said, you want a car? Let's go take a picture of a car. You want a house? Let's take a picture of a house. You want a new suit? Let's take a picture of a new suit. Then one day, I thought I didn't know anything about doing any business with this. I'm just telling you where the embryo was. A Fuller brush salesman came to our house, Larry, on 9100 Southwest 61st Court in a junk piece of automobile, and he starts to drive in my circular drive, and he starts to drive in, and he doesn't drive in. Instead, he parks it past the end, just a little bit past, because I wouldn't see his car. He gets out, he's bushy red-haired. I went out and met him at the front door, and I said, young man, if you're going to come and talk to me about something, go get that car and bring it in the driveway. Well, it scared him to death. He went and got the car, drove it in the driveway, and he got out of it ashamedly. And I said, that is no way to get out of a car. And I said, let me show you how to get out of a car. I went and got in his car, and I got out, and I closed the door, and I said, you slam it, and you walk 10 feet, and then you look back at it like it's a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW or a Lexus or a Cadillac. And I said, because one day if you keep looking at it, it will transform itself into one of those automobiles. And now let me show you the way to knock on the door. You knocked on it like you were hoping I wouldn't answer. Say, dot, 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 dot. Let them know there's somebody there with personality, with charm, with excitement, with enthusiasm, with zeal. He stared at me like I was a nut. I invited him in, and I had was no longer reading the condensations on the stool. I got tired of that, and I started putting them on reel-to-reel tape. I don't suppose anybody in here remembers reel-to-reel tape. I mean, that's back before 12-inch LP records. And I had a couple of them there, and I loaned him one of my condensations about attitude. And I said, here, take this and listen to it every day. Come back in a week. He came back in a week. He was still the same guy. I said, take it, read it, listen to it every day. Come back again. He came back, and he was kind of cleaned up a little bit. And I said, let's sit down and talk about your goals. The net of it is he was the #1 salesman in Fuller Brush Company for the state of Florida, driving in my driveway. This makes me cry. Driving a brand new Mercedes-Benz automobile. Visualization works. Attitude works. Enthusiasm works. Enthusiasm is the emotion management that paves the way for you and your ideas. It shouts in letters 10 feet tall, I've got what it takes. That was the embryo of our business. It was the genesis in my life that led me to this idea. These programs have changed the lives of more people than any other author in the field of leadership or motivation in history. That's a legacy that was passed on from my father to me, from me to you to your clients. I want to mention my friend John Edmund Haggai. He's the founder of the Haggai Institute for Advanced Leadership Training. This is what he said: spaced repetition is the mother of all skill and the mother of permanent change. That is because one hearing or reading makes little, if any, permanent response. It cannot change a belief, send a man to the ballot box, or influence him to contribute to a charity. We do not make people see, feel, or do anything with just one encounter. An important message requires repetition if it's going to have its intended result. That's why spaced repetition makes sense. That's why it's the secret ingredient of our programs. The magic ingredient of all of our programs is spaced repetition. Many of you know the following statistics, but you've heard it 50 times, you use it in selling, but I'm going to read it again anyway. According to author and consultant William J. Tobin, here's what happens to an idea without repetition when you give it to 100 people. The first time I heard this, I said, well, that can't really be true, but it is. After 24 hours, 25 have forgotten it. That makes me feel bad that out of each 100 of you here tomorrow, 25 you're not going to remember anything I said. After 48 hours, 50 have forgotten it. That's half the crowd. I'm getting depressed. After 4 days, 85 have forgotten it, and after 16 days, 98 out of 100. That means 98% of you in 1 month are not going to remember anything I said here today. No one will ever change by reading a book, attending a seminar one time. Our change only comes by our will after our head and heart acceptance of new information. And for those of you associated with this, you need to get this down and use this information. Intellectual change of mind comes first, then emotional change of heart, and then volitional change of will. We make choices and we make decisions after we have information and after we buy into it. Another advantage of spaced repetition and a plan of action is that when people are focused, and there's a big word, focused, but we are not going to be able to learn to focus on anything until we can get it crystal clear in our mind. It will not be crystal clear in our mind until our eyes can see it, or like the poet says, what thou seest, thou beest. There isn't, and you've heard me say this before, there isn't any science, dogma, creed, or religion in the world that will allow you to attract or draw anything to you that your thought repels. And your thought will repel any and everything that you can't see, can't describe, or can't put down in black and white. Never, never, never underestimate the value of spaced repetition. It's our magic ingredient and one of the powerful ideas of our programs that help change people's lives. Obviously, the other is the content of the program. Spaced repetition as a key part of our system helps people learn and change. And our plan of action, which provides interaction, helps accelerate the learning, but more important, personal involvement. Spaced repetition and personal involvement increases retention, increases belief, and motivates people to actually work in a plan of action and put it into action. That's what I call change. Our programs provide ample opportunity for repetition of content until it is totally mastered and hammered home. This combination of spaced repetition and personal involvement helps hammer home the ideas presented, and here's what happens. Slowly but surely, over a period of time, we have a thinking change, and we have an attitude change, and we have a behavior change, and then obviously we have an output different change. That is what is required for not only total mastery, but for being a lifelong practitioner of goal setting. Only with total mastery is it probable that any idea learned will ever be put into action. Spaced repetition requires total mastery. Any person who is intelligent enough can listen to a message and echo it. But the power of the message is not in the echo. The power in the message is what the message means to the person listening to it and what that person does with the message. My question to all of you is, do you have something down inside of you that's been encapsulated and it hasn't come out, but it's screaming to come out? This can only be done by becoming a practitioner of goal setting and mastering it and fine-tuning it to a science. I believe in every single person in this room. Amazingly, probably more than you believe in yourself, because thanks to my mother and dad, I don't see anybody as they are now. I only see them as how they can become if they use what was down inside of them. You only live on this earth one time. Your life is worth taking the time to think about. Your life is worth significantly more than just getting by. Your life is worth more than being a puppet on someone else's string or a marionette on someone else's stage. You are unique. You are special. There never has been in all history anyone like you, and there never will be again. You can have anything you want to have and be anything you want to be and go anywhere you want to go. And the magic carpet awaits to take you there.